Hello, and welcome to this lesson on making and measuring impact in an urban forest project. My name is Mary Lee Rhodes, and I'm the co-director of the Centre for Social Innovation in the Trinity Business School at Trinity College, Dublin. And I'm here on the beautiful Trinity campus to do this video. The video you're going to watch is roughly 15 minutes long, and it's designed to introduce the key concepts, sources of information, and steps to making and measuring impact. At the end of this video, you should understand what impact means, why it's important to measure it, where you can find more information about the different kinds of impacts your project might have, and the basic processes for defining, measuring, and reporting impact. Wish you luck. So let's get started. When we talk about impact, in the case of an urban forest, we are talking about what changes as a result of our efforts to plant, manage, and enjoy, or not, the trees and the related ecosystem in a specific location. So one thing that probably changes is the number and/or type of trees in that location. But defining and measuring impact goes well beyond simply counting the number of trees planted. What we know about creating sustainable forestry initiatives or enterprises is that there has to be some value to someone of doing this in the first place. Otherwise, the effort and the resources required will not be provided or sustained. What exactly that value is, to whom or where, when that value might be recognized and for how long will it last, are all questions that need to be answered in order to define impact. In our jump-in question, and in previous lessons, we've established that urban forests have a wide range of potential benefits, and it is in narrowing these down and communicating the benefits that are realized and valued by stakeholders that the art and science of impact lie. This general definition of impact should guide your thinking. It is the changes, benefits, learnings, or other effects in the short and long terms that occur as a result of the planned urban forestry or indeed any other activity, and these that are valued by relevant stakeholders. But what do we mean by that? How does that come through in an urban forestry project? What this means in practice is that you need to report some unit of impact or units of impact that people value. This is an example of an impact measure reported by a large sustainable forestry investment firm, New Forest, in 2016. While their overall objective is to create sustainable economic return, they also want to ensure local community prosperity and environmental sustainability through carbon storage, clean water, and biodiversity conservation. What we see here are examples of impact measures that they've deemed important to their stakeholders. Note the attention to economic and environmental impacts from their activities, with jobs and timber production representing economic impacts, and carbon storage and forested land representing environmental impacts. For some impact experts, these measures would be considered a mix of outputs, outcomes, and impact, and you can read more about the difference between these concepts in further reading for this lesson. But for now, what's important to recognize that reporting impact is a vital aspect of an urban forestry initiative and is widely practiced by sustainable foresters and impact investors alike. If you are wondering why defining an impact and measuring impact is so important, it's because it helps achieve your project aims in multiple different ways. Firstly, by defining the impact you expect to make, you create more specific and achievable project plans. If you've ever done project management, you will recall the value of SMART goals. Defining your desired impact early on helps you more clearly articulate specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-related, i.e. SMART goals. Secondly, by engaging with stakeholders in your area or domain of activity around impact, you immediately get their attention, as this is something that will directly affect or interest them. Imagine asking a community group if they would like to see some trees planted near them, or if they would like to have cleaner air, or green jobs, or lower energy bills. If you have credible benefits to deliver, ones that are of direct interest, then motivation to work with you and contribute resources will be that much greater. Thirdly, there are vast sums being allocated by private and public organizations around the world to achieve sustainability goals set by governments and global institutions such as the United Nations. In 2021, the European Union announced the Green Deal, which aims to make 1 trillion euros available in public and private investment to support ambitious climate objectives through 2030. In 2022, the US Congress passed a bill to invest $370 billion in climate and clean energy investments. The World Bank reported that impact investing, which aims at a wide range of social, environmental, and economic objectives, had risen to unprecedented levels in 2020 and estimated that a total of $2.3 trillion were being invested for impact, of which over 25% had clear impact management systems in place. If you want a bite of this pie, you need to be able to define and demonstrate your impact. And finally, having a clear understanding of what changed when you created or improved your urban forest means you will have compelling evidence for policymakers, planners, future investors, and entrepreneurs about what works and how, and what is needed to increase that impact in the future. The next 3 slides provide you with resources and tools to get started on your impact journey. Here, in this slide, I highlight 2 basic resources to begin that journey, the first of which is exploring the potential for ecosystem services. Students in the EU Forest program will already be familiar with the range of ecosystem services that may be delivered by natural environments, and is represented by the first diagram on the left of this slide. Maybe your project will deliver timber resources and recreation, or perhaps beauty and shading. You might revisit the relevant lesson from Rick DeVries to help guide your thinking in this area, or consult the relevant documents listed in the Explore More area of this lesson. The other fundamental resource is the UN's list of 17 Sustainable Development Goals and their related indicators. These inform a multitude of public and private sustainability initiatives and are core requirements for many public and philanthropic funding agencies. The obvious category to look into is goal number 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, but there may be others that fit your project even better. Within each of these overall goals are numerous specific impact measures, the use of which could unlock access to funding and social legitimacy. Other resources for ideas on impact may be found in the Explore More area relating to indicators that appeal to impact investors and those that are specific to nature-based solutions. When considering how best to define and measure the impact of your forestry project, you should bear the following pros and cons in mind that relate to the indicators you might choose. This list comes from a comprehensive review of social impact assessment methodologies in 2016, and I use it every year to help our Trinity College social innovation students reflect on impact indicators for their projects. Let me take a few minutes to explain these, as you can use this chart as a kind of checklist to ensure that your impact journey is a productive one. Starting with usability, are you able to gather the information needed to report impact? Can you actually measure or credibly estimate carbon sequestration from your trees? Do the skills exist in your team to gather information on mental health benefits? Is there technology that can help you here? We might study a bit of that in future lessons. Moving to inclusiveness. What this reflects is, do your measures of impact reflect the range of stakeholder perspectives on the benefits, or indeed costs, of your project to society? Have you considered people that will use the forest, that live near the forest, that will pay for the forest, future generations, and non-human stakeholders? Value demonstrating is the impact of recognized value to stakeholders. Will they consider what you've reported a measure of this proof of value? For example, tons of CO2 stored is a globally recognized measure of environmental value and even has a trading price. This makes it an excellent value demonstrating impact measure for both environmental and economically focused stakeholders. And finally, on the pros side, the ability to attract investment. The indicators that you choose may or may not inspire investors or funders to put money into a venture that delivers the impact. So if you're looking for funding, you need to make sure that the impact measures you choose are ones that will attract these investors and funders. You also might look and see if there's existing government programs offering subsidies for proposed or proven impact of this type. Moving on to the cons, there are also features of impact indicators that make them less desirable. And these are listed on the right-hand side of this checklist and include the following. So resource intensive is a very important one. Many of these indicators require a lot of resources, whether in cost or time, to actually measure them. There are any number of impact indicators theoretically possible and could be of interest, but finding ones that are cheap or publicly available for your project is often a considerable challenge. Subjective. A weakness of many social impact measures is they rely on people reporting how a particular experience makes them feel. For example, a survey of individual customer level satisfaction with a government service, or a random sample of citizens' levels of happiness. The problem with relying on these as impact measures is that they can be perceived as unreliable, subject to bias or influence, or simply lack credibility as the basis on which to make investments. Inaccessible refers to impact measures that are proprietary to specific impact measurement providers and are generally very costly to obtain, or that require membership or other types of affiliation in order to access the methodology or the results. There are loads of examples of these in the ESG, Environment Social Governance space. For example, Thomson Reuters ESG rankings and the Global Reporting Initiative detailed reports. Small forestry projects are unlikely to benefit from these larger scale, expensive reporting indicators. And lastly, insufficiently transparent or timely. Impact indicators for which the measurement methodology is not publicly available are unlikely to inspire confidence. Furthermore, if your impact is reported only every couple of years, this can be a problem for maintaining public or investor support. So those are the kinds of checklists you might apply once you've had a look at the kinds of impacts you believe you can deliver. This checklist helps you decide whether or not it's feasible for your own project to deliver impact measures of those type. The full impact measurement process is actually well beyond just selecting your particular indicators. This last tool in the toolbox for defining and measuring impact is a full measurement process laying out the steps necessary to plan and then implement valid impact reporting. The steps outlined here are from the European Venture Philanthropy Association's 2015 Managing Impact Report, which was based on a European-wide expert review and recommendation for reporting impact in 2014. Since that time, there have been many other variations on this theme, but these steps appear in pretty much all of them, and you'd do well to start with these when planning how to measure and manage impact. What you see here is the full cycle of impact management steps that begins with setting your objectives for your project in terms of the social, environmental, and economic impact you hope to achieve. We've talked a lot about this within this lesson, about how you might do that. Consulting with stakeholders is vital to build support and clarify what interested parties really value and how they wish to see the value reported. And this part is a second step after you started to think about how you might report impact. Defining the impact indicators and the data needed to measure the change, both as a direct result of your forestry project and any important indirect impacts, is at the core of this overall process. This step also includes explaining your theory of change, which is how your specific project will create impact and is extremely useful if you're anticipating impact on people's behaviors and beliefs. More on this is in this report and indeed on any number of references around how to look at your theory of change. Step 4 is often forgotten in planning for impact reporting, but it's a critical one for ensuring that your reported impact is credible and in line with your stakeholders' expectations for value creation. How are you going to verify that the impact you believed that you were going to have is actually achieved? And what is the value of that impact? Finally, step 5 is the formal reporting and reflecting on the impact achieved. There's loads more detail in the EVPA report on all of these. So The three main takeaways from this session are: urban forestry projects can have many different impacts, including environmental, social, and economic. New projects should begin with a consideration of desired impacts and link these to the planned activities that you are going to put in place to deliver your urban forest. Secondly, there are numerous sources of inspiration for selecting the kind of impact your project could have and consulting with stakeholders about the possibilities and undertaking research to choose a small number of impact objectives and indicators that are most likely to communicate the value of your project to these stakeholders and not cost too much to actually measure is a vital step in planning your impact journey. And finally, making an impact can only be assured if you set out to measure and manage the impact of your project or your enterprise from the very beginning and keep at it. This is vital if you're hoping to attract investors or funders. I hope you've enjoyed this and have learned something from this session, and I wish you all the best in the future of your urban forestry project. Thank you very much.